today I'm going to show you the secret method you can use to sew any type of fabric on your sewing machine. Now I've been getting a lot of complaints from my subscribers. They have a sewing machine, but when they try to sew certain type of fabric, the machine doesn't sew the fabric, mostly stretch fabrics and other types of fabric. Now a big shout out to my life as decency. This subscriber hit me up and she complained that her sewing machine doesn't sew certain types of fabric. Another shout out to Temilope. She also hit me up and she had the same issue. She has a sewing machine, but sometimes when she tries to sew certain types of fabric, her machine doesn't sew the fabric. Today I'm going to give you a secret method that you can use on your sewing machine, and when you use the secret method, you're going to sew any type of fabric on your sewing machine. Please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel Luyasi. Hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you get the first hand notice of it. If you have any question, don't hesitate, hit me up in the comment section. Let's get into it. Now, when you're sewing certain kind of fabric, like maybe a stretch fabric, the reason why the machine doesn't sew such fabrics very well is because, this is the foot, this is the presser foot. Stretch fabrics are very slippery. They are very slippery fabric. So when you place the fabric underneath the presser foot and you place the presser foot on top, the machine finds it difficult to stabilize the fabric, and even the needle that goes in to pick up the thread, it finds it difficult because of the nature of the fabric. That's why sometimes when you sew certain types of fabric, they don't sew very well. Then when you try other type of fabric, you notice they sew flawlessly. So now the trick is, there are two methods. There was a method I was using before. I'm going to still explain that method, but it's just that when you're doing a bulky project, that method might not be effective because it requires a lot of time and a lot of attention to detail. Now the first method I used to use, then I'm going to give the second secret method that you can use to solve this problem. Now the first method I used to use, then I'll get a piece of paper. I'll get a piece of paper and cut it into small pieces like this. If I notice that the sewing machine is not sewing the fabric well, I'll place the piece of thin paper like this under the foot. When I place it under the foot, I'm going to raise my foot. Then I'll place the footer on top of the paper at the area where I want to sew. Now when I place the paper underneath like this, when I start sewing, any stitch I do on top of the paper, on top of the fabric, is going to sew well, whether it's a stretchy fabric or not. Now this method can be used to maybe do minimal sewing, or maybe sewing a little project, or doing a stitch that is not too long. The disadvantage of this method is it will take more time. It will be time consuming when you are sewing using this method, maybe on a full gown or a full top or a full trouser. It's going to take much time because you are going to be cutting pieces of this paper all the time to place it on the spot. Each spot you sew, there must be this paper on top. So you sew on top. When you sew on top of the paper like this, the way I'm doing, when you sew on top of the paper, the way I'm doing, when you get to the end, you back stitch. Then you remove the fabric. When you remove the fabric, you cut it. Then each place you stitch, you now peel the paper like this. Peel it out like this. So this was the method. I've used this method to sew a complete trouser, bellows cargo trouser, complete before. It's effective, but it's time consuming. So the disadvantage of this method, this can help solve the problem of stitching on stretchy fabric and some kind of fabric by using this method. The disadvantage of this method is it's time consuming. You have to cut pieces of this paper, a lot of it, and be placing it on the spots where you want to sew and be stitching on top of the paper before it gets, so it's like the needle is contacting the fabric indirectly. It must go through the paper. So the paper serves as a means to stabilize the foot and stabilize the needle, and it's to enable it to sew those type of fabric. Now I'm going to give a better method that you can use to actually sew any type of fabric using your sewing machine. Okay, so now the first thing you need to do this method is a maxing tape. Now I don't know what this is called in your country, but this is a maxing tape. It's basically a paper kind of tape. This is a tape, is made from paper, I think, so it's very lightweight. It's a maxing tape. You just need this to do this method I'm about to reveal. Now you cut a piece of this tape, cut it around this measurement. Don't cut too big of it, just a little bit of it like this. Now when you cut this tape, now what you do is you raise up your foot this way. Now when you raise up your foot this way, you are going to place the tape underneath the foot at the area where your needle, these are needle, at the area where your needle goes into the bobbin to pick up the thread. Now you're going to take the tape like this, place it under the footer around the area where your needle usually goes into the bobbin to pick up the thread. When you place it, make sure it's glued underneath like this. Make sure it's glued like this. Then you're going to take this extra pieces of tape and gum it at the top here. Gum it this way. Then you're going to take this other part and gum it this way to hold it in place like this. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut this excess bit here. Cut this excess bit of tape around this area. So we are good. As you can see, hope you're seeing it very clearly. This tape now will serve as a bit of stabilization. So when our thread goes in, the tape will serve as a stabilization on the stretchy fabric or whatever kind of fabric you're sewing on. So now it's already set in place. So I'm going to turn my needle is already threaded. So I'm going to turn my needle inside. So the needle is going to go in. Now if the needle goes in with the thread, I'm going to raise. You have to watch this very carefully. The needle is inside the thread is inside the needle. So I'm going to take the bit of thread, and I'm going to pull it under like this. So the thread is already inside the tape. I'm going to take my bobbin case and my bobbin. I'm going to insert it underneath like this. Insert it underneath like this. When I insert it, then I'm going to turn the machine head, bring out my under thread. As you can see, I'm bringing it out. Then I'm going to take it backwards. Now I'm going to take our stretchy fabric. This fabric was giving me difficulty to sew. So this is a stretchy sports fabric. So I'm going to place it on top of the fabric. This fabric was giving me difficulty to sew. So now I'm sewing it on top. As you can see, it's actually sewing on top of the fabric. As you can see, it's sewing on top of the fabric. It's giving us the result we want. As you can see, it's sewing on top of the fabric. Let's try and sew on top of here. As you can see, sewing on top of the fabric, sewing on top of the fabric. So as you can see, look at what we have here. As you can see, our stitch is running. This is a stretchy fabric, but even with the fact that it stretches, you see it's giving us a stitch because of the addition of this marking tape we placed. So this method can help you when you're sewing stretch fabric or some kind of fabrics giving you difficulty to sew. When you place your tape on the foot, actually stabilizes the fabric and enables you to sew. So when you try this method, it's going to solve that problem. I hope you got a lot of value from that video. I believe with that secret method, you'll be able to sew any type of fabric on your sewing machine. Please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel Yasi. Hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you get the first time notice of it. If you have any question, hit me up in the comment section. I made a video on how to sew in a straight line using your sewing machine. How to sew a perfect straight line with your sewing machine. Click on this spot to watch that video. See you in my next video.